Welcome back, everyone. It's been a crazy few weeks, but it's good to be back making videos again. For those who do not know, I was someone affected by Hurricane Helene. While things could have been worse for me personally, it has been rough mentally and emotionally seeing the city you live and love hurting so bad. I still, at this point, do not have running water and may not have it back for a while. I'm hearing best case 3 more weeks. And yes, that basically means I'm being Asmongold this Halloween season. My kitchen is a mess, I haven't showered in almost 3 weeks, and I haven't even been able to do laundry. Now, I don't want to talk a lot about this, but I thought I would start off with this introduction. But if you'd like to know more details, I did post an entire video about my experience on my page. This is my first real video back since the hurricane and my first Destiny video since early August. And I want you all to know that I am super hyped about this video and theory. I was nerding out like crazy yesterday morning, pacing around my room, chugging tea, and about 1 step away from making it my own Pepe Silva board. I was so excited that for the first time ever, I DM'd another creator and wanted to hear what they thought of my theory. And that creator was none other than My Name is Bife. Him and I had a nice conversation discussing this theory and more. I will not go into detail about his ideas, as that's his content, but based on our talks, we seem to have very similar thoughts, but go kind of in a different direction. I'll just leave it at that. Speaking of Bife, I do want to say thank you to him. When Bife heard about my situation with the hurricane, he wanted to help. He even shouted me out on one of his videos. So to him and his community, I wanted to say that meant a lot during such a dark and confusing time. Now, before I get into the lore, I wanted to ask you all one question. How is everyone feeling about the new dungeon Vespers hosts? Let me know in the comments how your Vesper experience was and what you liked or disliked about the dungeon. Because honestly, there seems to be a lot of mixed opinions and even some anger over this piece of endgame content. Outside of the bugs and having my void supers disabled, Hunter main, I think this may be one of, if not the best dungeon Bungie has ever created. I'm going to say a kind of a hot take, but I think this hot take will explain why I think this is a great dungeon. Before Warlord's Ruin, I have not long-term enjoyed a dungeon since Pit of Heresy. Yes, I enjoyed Grasp the first few runs, I enjoyed Spire the first few runs, but really there was things about them I just stopped enjoying. I think Bungie made dungeons too simple. Dungeons were supposed to be small raids, but starting with Prophecy, they became just harder strikes. One mechanic throughout the entire dungeon with little to no variation. Ghost of the Deep was a step in the right direction, but the slog through the walking simulator that was the water sections took away my enjoyment of that dungeon. Vespers is almost perfect as a dungeon though, in my opinion. The only small complaint I have with it is how annoying and cheap the final boss, Fake Tracks, can be. There's just way too much going on that it can turn a fun dungeon run into a rage-inducing very quickly. I don't even mind how long it takes to set up damage. Like, I've seen some people upset online. Not everything has to be super quick, and it's nice to have a mechanic-heavy dungeon. I think the quote-unquote reused assets of the mechanic is beautifully done. Taking something we are all familiar with if you've done Deepstone Crypt or Seraph Shield, and putting an interesting twist on it really hones in that this is a corrupted Braytech facility. The long quest line was amazing and reminded me of the Outbreak Prime quest back in Destiny 1. This is the type of endgame content we need more of that really brings the fire team together.
You put your thing in my thing! Oh my god.
Do it. Just do it.
We've got time. We still had another 15 seconds. But okay.
I'm sorry.
No, we didn't. I saw
We
0.
did! I was watching.
Gretchen was
It was
literally...
It's not my fault Sticky took
We
my
were
terminal.
We were panicking.
Dude, honestly, I saw my life flash before my eyes. Like I was staring death in the face. Do you really want me, the streamer, to die?
That's what you get. I don't even feel bad.
And while I love this new dungeon, I don't want to talk about the dungeon lore today. I want to talk about Icebreaker. Now, while I wasn't overly excited about its return, I didn't care about the hype in D1. The lore on the weapon is very interesting. When Icebreaker was first announced as the new dungeon exotic, I was confused. Except for Grass, which was a special case being the 30th anniversary, reprised Destiny 1 exotics have never shown up in dungeons before. They are usually saved for Season Pass exotics. Since it was first announced, I have thought Bungie may have switched the dungeon and Season Pass exotic. It made sense to drive up dungeon key sales, bringing back a fan favorite you could only earn once you paid a little extra money for the activity. I honestly still kind of believe that, since the Guardian ranks were quote-unquote bugged, and you needed Icebreaker kills to go up the levels. This is usually reserved for the Season Pass exotic. But then I read the lore on Icebreaker, and while it may still be true the exotics were swapped last minute, the story on the exotic has Shira exploring an abandoned Hake foundry, trying to find connections between them and Clovis Bray. This seems to be her very first mission after recovering from her massive mental breakdown where she repeatedly killed her fellow Guardians in trials. Out of context, that doesn't sound like a mental breakdown. I mean, you can't really be mentally sound and willingly go into trials, but this wasn't the typical sportsman kills. She repeatedly killed her friends even after the round ended, chopping off their heads, inserting grenades inside their chest between their ribs, and more. She even later final deathed fellow Guardians simply for using stasis. I am one for understanding that some people are deserving of redemption, but I've never been a fan that after some therapy sessions, she's been allowed outside of a padded cell. Which is also kind of why it confuses me that people want an Aramis redemption story. Are people kind of just forgetting all the harm and death she caused? Well, Sticky, she was doing it for her people. So was Clovis Bray. And I've never once heard a person say, we need a Clovis Bray redemption arc. And I wouldn't want to be buddies with him. Her ability to be redeemed, in my eyes, starts and ends with her directly causing Rasputin's death. But I digress. I could discuss my dislike for Aramis all day long. But this isn't about my hatred for Aramis. It's about this interesting section of Icebreaker lore card. The foundry is silent now. Shell casings litter the floor. They clatter away from the bootfalls of the warlock Shira as she weaves between the down chassis of combat frames branded with the sigil of the Hake foundry. Security is disabled, Shira says over an encrypted channel. She's quick to cross the foundry floor, checking the disabled frames one by one as she progresses to a sealed vault door. The door's surface is marked with a glyph unfamiliar to her. It looks like a fish hook, or perhaps an anchor. Is this what we're looking for? Confirmed. That's the same symbol on a weapon the Vanguard recovered from the Seraph Station. Golden Age, possibly older. Everyone's freaking out about the end of this lore page because it mentions Old Chicago. But the real lore is this right here. An unfamiliar glyph that looks like a fish hook. Now I will be honest, when I first saw this, I was thinking Black Armory. I worked very hard for my upside down fish hook emblem from the Forges. But if you keep reading, like, just a second longer, the symbol they are speaking of is not Black Armory, but the symbol that is on the grip of the Revision Zero exotic pulse rifle. This symbol has never been mentioned in lore or even talked about until now. We've never even known what this symbol means, and honestly, still don't, since this is just a theory video. This is an old symbol. It is described in this lore passage as possibly older than the Golden Age. And there is only one thing that not only has a continuous goal, but has existed before the Golden Age. The Acolytes of Nezarec. Yes, I know. Nezarec might be copium, but hear me out. If you all can listen to a 2-hour thesis on why Atrex should be breedable, you gotta hear me out on this one. No excuses. Also, if you want to bump the ugliest of uglies with some bugs, please talk to a therapist, or a real woman, or both at the same time. I encourage all kinds of talking lifestyles. Now, the first reason I believe this symbol might be the Acolytes of Nezarec symbol is because they have been around, like I said, before the Golden Age, as seen here on the Nezarec Sins exotic. He is that which is an end, and he shall rise again. Passage from Of Hatred Nezarec, a pre-Golden Age text. Nezarec has been worshipped on Earth since before the Traveler arrived by a family that kept the tome of Hatred Nezarec and passed it down generation to generation. Currently, the leader of this cult is Michael, who has been recruiting new members. You can find out about some of the current members on the Root of Nightmares gear and weapon lore. The cult of Nezarec's goals is to keep worshipping and bringing Nezarec back to life, giving him a new corporal form. Because our favorite raid boss cannot truly die. Even now, he's not dead. He's been influencing and infecting the mind of Mithrax for at least a year now. While we finally have mentioned in game about this curse with this new episode, it has been mentioned and hinted at in lore since Season of the Witch. So we have a cult that's whole purpose is bringing their god back to physical form. We have a friend currently being tormented by him. But how does that tie into this symbol? Revision 0 was made by synthesizing the material from the K1 anomaly. In fact, they purposefully hid the fact that the artifact was dangerous per Revision 0's lore page. Per Alton's request, we've buried Stevenson's analysis and the report from K1. I've taken the liberty of authorizing material synthesis and informing our partners at HHI that we have the green light to begin testing. Now, what was so dangerous about this K1 anomaly? Those that came in contact with it suffered from insomnia, nightmares, and hallucinations. Sound familiar? Oh, and it was found on the moon, where a certain final god of pain's ship was buried. While this theory may be a little out there, it makes sense to me. A cult that's whole job is to bring Nezarec back to life, a symbol that is so obscure in the Destiny universe that even other Guardians have never seen it before, and connections to the K1 anomaly all wrapped up together. Why wouldn't a secret cult have hidden members in plain sight, doing everything they can to bring about their god's return? Icebreaker wasn't just discovered anywhere. It was discovered in an abandoned factory behind a locked door, large door, with this obscure symbol on it. Could this be the calling card of the Acolytes of Nezarec? Or is this something more sinister and even bigger than the final god of pain? Is this another nod at Nezarec's eventual return? Or is Bungie setting up something further down the road? Only time will tell on this, but for the time being, we can theorize and get a little obsessive over the great mystery still left in Destiny, and the mystery that Bungie will continue to add. If we start seeing people around the tower saying "Hail Nezarec" like it's a Captain America movie, we may need to start worrying. I'm not gonna lie, that's our code red. And I'm sure like a lot of us have practiced pushing unsuspecting people off the tower. We just kind of need to do it to a few NPCs. No big deal. Zavala's on vacation currently anyway, according to some seasonal lore. So you have my permission to cause a little chaos around the tower. Now, if one of you people watching this video is an acolyte of Nezarec, legally you have to identify yourself. Thank you all for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please let me know what you guys think in the comments section. Love to hear your thoughts on this theory and your thoughts on the new dungeon itself. And please like and subscribe. And remember, hunters never die.